A chilling wind swept through the deserted streets as Sarah walked home from work. The feeling of being watched lingered, making her quicken her pace. She glanced over her shoulder, but the shadows played tricks on her eyes. She shook her head and continued, trying to dismiss her paranoia. Suddenly, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Nice jacket, Sarah." Her heart pounded as she looked around, seeing no one. Fear gripped her, and she hurried home, locking the door behind her. She checked her windows, drawing the curtains tight. The feeling of eyes on her never left. Another message came. "I like the way you smile." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't smiled at anyone today. Her hands trembled as she dialed the police, but they couldn't trace the number. Days passed, each message more personal and invasive than the last. Sarah felt her sanity slipping as the stalker's knowledge of her life grew. One night, she heard a tap at her window. She froze, her heart racing. Slowly, she approached the window, peeking through a small gap in the curtain. A face stared back at her, eyes cold and menacing. She screamed, stumbling back and grabbing her phone to call for help. The police arrived quickly, but the man had vanished, leaving no trace. Weeks went by without incident, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She installed security cameras and changed her routine. Just when she thought she was safe, a package arrived at her door. Inside was a single rose and a note, "I'll always be watching." Sarah's world collapsed around her. She couldn't eat, sleep, or think without feeling his presence. Desperation led her to a private investigator, who found a disturbing pattern. The stalker had been watching her for years, leaving subtle clues she had never noticed. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. One stormy night, the power went out. Sarah huddled in her living room, clutching a flashlight. A sound from the basement made her jump. She knew she shouldn't investigate, but fear and curiosity propelled her forward. Slowly, she descended the creaking stairs, the flashlight flickering. She reached the bottom and saw the basement door slightly ajar. Taking a deep breath, she pushed it open. The beam of her flashlight revealed a figure standing in the corner, facing the wall. Her heart nearly stopped. The figure turned slowly, and Sarah's blood ran cold. It was the man from the window, his eyes locking onto hers. He smiled, a twisted, malevolent grin. "I've been waiting for you," he whispered. Sarah backed away, but the man advanced, his movements deliberate and menacing. She fumbled with her phone, but it slipped from her trembling hands. As she reached for it, he lunged, grabbing her wrist with an iron grip. She screamed, struggling to break free, but his strength was overwhelming. The stalker leaned in close, his breath hot against her ear. "You can't escape me," he hissed. Panic surged through Sarah, and with a surge of adrenaline, she kicked him hard, breaking his grip. She bolted up the stairs, slamming the door behind her. Sarah barricaded herself in her bedroom, her heart pounding like a drum. She heard footsteps approaching, slow and steady. She searched frantically for a weapon, grabbing a heavy lamp. The door handle rattled, and the door creaked open. The stalker stood there, a shadowy silhouette in the doorway. "Why are you doing this?" Sarah cried, her voice shaking. The stalker stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with malice. "Because I can," he replied coldly, "and because you belong to me." Sarah swung the lamp with all her might, connecting with his head. He staggered back, giving her a moment to escape. She bolted out of the house, screaming for help. Neighbors emerged, calling the police once more. This time, they caught him. The stalker was taken away, his eyes never leaving Sarah as he was led to the police car. Even though he was gone, Sarah knew the terror he had inflicted would never truly leave her.